I hear a helicopter. Yeah, it is a helicopter. Enemy. Let's see. Oh, goodness. That was too easy. Yeah. Oh, goodness, that was too easy. Imagine if this had radar. Oh, man. Привет, товарищи! Sauber zist и добро пожаловать одранто на канал. Howdy, folks. Sauber here. Welcome back to the channel. And yes, this is the dev server 1.81 Ride of the Valkyries. Bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum. Anyway, you know what that means. Helicopters and other new goodies to play with. So what I'm doing right here is, you're probably wondering why I'm switching back and forth. I made a new custom camouflage for myself specifically for the T-80B based on the new late summer camouflage. Even better, oh, excuse me. I even made a little makeshift skin for my hind. A little night camouflage for the Mi-24D. And let me tell you, I am super excited for the helicopters. And all the loadouts we got for it. ATGMs, rockets, even bombs? That's crazy. So, yeah. And I apologize in advance if my voice kind of sounds a little rascally. I have a bit of a sore throat, but I'm still kicking. I can still talk mostly. Thankfully, it doesn't hurt that bad. And also, sorry if there's any background noise. It's actually storming where I'm at, so if you hear thunder crashing, you know why. Either that, or it's because of the Gaijilla. And then also this vehicle, the BMP-2. I'm pretty excited for the new Soviet vehicles being added. Definitely going to get myself the T-80B and then research this bad boy, the BMP-2. Oh my goodness, this thing was so fun to play, but so annoying to face. Because while he can't really kill you from the front, except with an ATGM, the 30mm, he can knock out your tracks, take out your gun, flank you, and penetrate your thin armor. If you're in an Abrams or a Leopard, all bets are off, because your side armor for both the Abrams and the Leopard 2 is only 35mm. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but it has the additional side plating. But let me remind you, that can be shot off, and once you shoot that off, that 30mm is just going to go right through you like butter. And if you're in mixed battles, if the BMP-2 has APDS belts, you can pen the side of a T-64 and a T-80B. But yeah, so here's the T-80B. I have to admit, before they announced which T-80 it would be, you know, back in even before Project X 1.79 was released, they talked about on a Russian stream that the T-80 model was ready. But they did not say which T-80. Could have been the original T-80, which was very unlikely, and especially now, obviously we got the T-80B. It could have been the T-80B, T-80BV, which I had originally thought, which I'm theorizing they might even add the T-80BV, most likely as a modification, given that the T-64B was also, it's also possible to mod the T-64B into the T-64BV. So most likely in the future, I'm not sure when, we'll get the T-80BV. And then we also got another interesting vehicle, which I don't play out in this video, but I might test drive a bit. Or let me rephrase that, I'm sorry, excuse me. The M1IP. That is a rather interesting vehicle choice to add, because I looked at it in the armor viewer. Now, unfortunately, I don't have it shown on this video, but maybe in like a future video where I do a little dev server overview. But I mean, by looks, it looks amazing. It looks very close to the M1A1, minus the 120mm. And I really wish they could have added the M1A1, but for various reasons, I guess they couldn't do that. But then at the same time, we have the Type 90 in game, the Japanese Type 90 that is, with the APFS DS shell that can pen 540mm. So what stops them from adding the M1A1? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think. But anyway, going back to the M1IP, against heat, the turret has excellent protection than it did before, but only against heat. And as you know, in War Thunder, if you have it, everybody likes to use those sabot shells. So this is by a rough estimate, but in short, you can still get penetrated from a front by a Leopard 2A4, a T-80 and T-64, and especially the Type 90. Yeah. But then at the same time, that might have been also possible even if they added the M1A1. But at least it would have been, you know, more popular given its more famous gun armament. The M256 120mm cannon. Good grief. But going back to the T-80, I'm really excited for the T-80. The T-80B, that is. I'm just going to call it the T-80. For one thing, the turret kind of reminds me, you know, with the way the smoke shells are arranged, that of the T-72B. Because not too long ago, back in May of this year, I had the opportunity to visit the... Now forgive me if I got it backwards. I confused the first and the third, because I know I only went to one of them, but I believe it was the first Cavalry Museum in Fort Hood in Texas. And they had an assortment of various vehicles from World War II all the way up to the present day. And over by the Soviet tank section, they had on display a T-72 tank, an Iraqi T-72 at that was found abandoned in a trench, or not a trench, but what do you, those dugout positions where tanks can, like, are in dug-in positions, was found there, taken back to the United States, and taken to Fort Hood to be put on display. And I have to admit, it was in good condition. It still had some of its smoke, well, not the smoke grenades, but the smoke launchers in place. And even the rubber side skirts were in good condition. Only one of them was slightly damaged. But at any rate, if you look on the chassis of the T-80B, now it's obviously a little different than that of the T-72, but it gives you that kind of reminder. And then you have the turret that kind of reminds you of the T-64. So basically, in short, the T-80B, in my opinion, kind of looks like a cross between the T-64 and the T-72. Coupled, of course, with its gas turbine engine. And I really like the Soviet MBTs in War Thunder, especially how easy it is to aim the gun. But my only gripe with the T-64, 64B in particular, was that, number one, it had a very poor reverse gear, and two, it just didn't really have that good maneuverability compared to other tanks like the M1 Abrams, Leopard 2A4, and even MBT/KPZ-70. But in my brief experience playing out the T-80B on the dev server, I really think this is going to be my go-to tank once 1.81 is released. Definitely going to want to get this vehicle. It has an excellent reverse gear for a Soviet MBT. It goes 7 miles an hour in reverse. And I emphasize that because when you compare that with the 2 mile an hour reverse speed of a T-64, that is a major improvement. And it has very excellent acceleration for its class. And I just noticed that Shilky, as I like to call the Shilky blew off my Stalin wood. So I was like, darn it, where's my Stalin wood? Now, call me silly if you want, but what is that? It kind of looks like a spoiler. What is it or, you know, the Stalin wood. What is it used for? Is it like a snorkel? My guess is like it's some kind of snorkel. Let me know in the comments below what it's for. But, yeah, we'll go into the helicopters in just a second. So, like, if I try to do this maneuverability in the T-64, it would take me forever. Because I was able to launch smoke grenades, make a turn, and then get back in the action fairly quickly. Now, as for the helicopters, oh yeah, I'm really excited for the helicopters. They're going to be fun to play. But remember how in last video with the bullpup missiles, how I touched a little on the helicopters, wondering how they would fare against other vehicles such as aircraft? Well, interestingly enough, as you'll see later in the video, as I'm flying my Mi-24, I end up getting shot down easy by a MiG-17. Yeah. And, like, I've seen some other videos of other content creators playing on the dev server with the helicopters, and one of them, Mike Goes Boom, he was able to take out a helicopter easy with the Spitfire. And I mentioned the Spitfire because that's a prop. So if a Spitfire can shoot down a helicopter with ease, just imagine how easy it would be for a jet, any jet, basically to just speed up to a helicopter and shoot it down. But since it is the dev server and it's the early test, you could say, and then after 1.81 is released, we will have the closed beta for the helicopters. It'll be interesting to see how it'll play out. But all in all, I really think a dedicated helicopter versus helicopter mode will work. Because look at this. Me and this other Mi-24 are able to dogfight it out, and I was able to win the dogfight. Wait for it. Of course, I wasted a lot of rockets, but hey, that was worth it in my opinion. Now, for some that might be worried that the helicopters might be a little overpowered, like as you saw how that other Mi-24 was able to take out my T-80U, or excuse me, goodness. Ugh, my nose. Sorry about that. The T-80B. Well, as you'll soon see, this MBT-70 here almost got me, but instead, something else will get me. And as you can see here, I don't know if it's a dev server bug, but when I did the ATGMs, I had a hard time getting them on target. So I'm engaging the MBT, and boom. If it wasn't for that Shilka, it would have been that MiG-15. But, deviating to the BMP-2, I almost call it the BMP-1, I think it would be an excellent support vehicle for top tier. Because, like, you can scout out enemy tanks, and I don't know why. I don't know if this is from the replay, just not showing on the replay, but I'm fairly certain you can scout in this vehicle. It is a light tank after all. But, like, you can scout targets, maybe mark them with your 30mm, and if a plane comes at you, or a helicopter, you can aim that gun super high. You can aim it up to, I believe, 85 degrees in height. So that 30mm is going to be very useful. And then with the T-80, you're going to be able to go toe to toe with the Abrams and the Leopards, and you'll have a good time with its high speed of going up to 48 miles per hour top speed. Yeah, I am so happy that the T-80 is being introduced. And remember how in one of my Leopard videos, oh yeah, the Leopard 2A4 and Type 90 duo, I had that desert camouflage from the April test that I was able to get from Live WT. Well, I also applied it to my T-80 here, and it looks really nice. So, highlighting a bit on the helicopters. I wonder what their tactical, or not advantage, but what their use of tactics are going to be in the game. Because just a few of the tactics that I have observed from playing the helicopters that one day on the dev server. Some would go straight in and just nuke the place with a whole barrage of rockets, which generally would get you killed by an anti-air or somebody that has a good aim and able to use their roof MG or even their main gun and shoot you down. Another tactic that I especially like was you would hang back at the map and just observe the map as you hover at a relatively high altitude, outside the range of anti-aircraft fire, but most likely just within the range of main gunfire, assuming a tank commander is able to aim that far to you, as much as 5 kilometers away, compared to the average 2 kilometers. Or occasionally, as I had observed, there was somebody in a Sheridan that was trying to fire their ATGM at me while I was hovering above the airfield. Or, excuse me, not the airfield, the battlefield. And interestingly enough, his ATGM, I was just barely outside the range of his ATGM. If I had been a little closer, he probably would have nicked me with his ATGM. But nonetheless, I was able to sit at the back of the battlefield, scout out, look for either a static target or a light target I could easily engage, and launch my ATGMs and just, engage the target. Sometimes he'd hit, sometimes he'd miss, but all in all, it was pretty fun to observe the battlefield. Now, judging by the test flight for the helicopters, there wasn't just tanks and anti-air that you could shoot at. There were also trucks. And these weren't just trucks like you would find in like Air RB or Air Arcade, for example. These were very detailed vehicles. They had damage models similar to tanks, and they even had X-ray models and even crew members. So that has me curious. Could we potentially have, assuming like we get our dedicated helicopter versus helicopter mode soon, because from what I understood, we may not get that right away, but it is planned nonetheless. So what I'm wondering is like, will those ground units... Oh, let me deviate a little. Here I am in my MiG-17, and yeah, that's what I meant when I said you could easily intercept a helicopter using your plane. Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder if that's like a balance, if they'll balance that, or if it's working as intended. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see either when the second dev server comes up, or when the patch drops. But anyway, going back to those detailed ground units, will they most likely be, I assume, our main targets for like our MGs and our rockets? And then we would use ATGMs or maybe even the bombs, assuming you know how to aim those. I tried using the bombs in a custom battle on some AI tanks, and oh my god, I missed so many times. The only tank I ended up getting was a T-54 because my bomb the bomb blast was able to track him and set him on fire, and obviously he burned out. But anyhow, so most likely those light trucks and the know-how will be our main targets. And then our opponents would be presumably AI, SPAA, hopefully not too overpowered. And then obviously other helicopters. Because I think helicopter versus helicopter could work very well. Because outside this footage, I've dogfight interacted with other helicopters, both in real battles and in custom battles during the dev server's uptime. And I have to admit, it was pretty fun duking it out with other helicopters. But one thing I have noticed, a little I guess you could say a graphical issue, is that when you aim the ATGMs at long range, for some reason it doesn't render properly. I don't know. Maybe that's something they'll fix in a future update? Because it looks like at some points, like, wait for it, de-render. Yeah, right there, it de-renders, but it's still flying, and then boom. So you think, oh man, did my missile fizzle out, or what happened? Because you lose sight of the missile, but it's still flying, you just can't see it. I don't know, I'm fairly certain they'll fix that in a future update. But for conclusion of the helicopters, oh yeah, that reminds me. So I never actually tried it during the dev server's uptime, but it would seem that you could capture zones, tank ground zones using your helicopter. But the issue I see with it is like, if somebody sees you, even if you're like a kilometer and a half, or maybe even 2 kilometers away, they could easily shoot you down. So, assuming you would attempt to, be audacious or daring to capture zone using your helicopter, how much spawn points would you get? Because, in all honesty, it's double the risk, or the risk is doubled to try to capture zone with a helicopter than it is with the tank. Because, and I haven't seen people try this, but you could potentially, like, if you see a helicopter capturing a zone, but either you don't want to shoot it, or for whatever reason, you could potentially rain down artillery on it. It's an interesting concept, but I kind of wonder if, like, maybe the cap zones could be spread out a bit more, or you'd have more cover. Or if you capture it with the helicopter, maybe all you'd have to do is just hover over the zone. Like, you'd have to be really close, like, let's say 10, 20, 30 meters above the zone. It's certainly an interesting thought to think about. But yeah, I'm certainly excited for helicopters to come out to War Thunder. And in the next video, assuming the second dev server doesn't come up, I will have a video that gives a brief overview of what we can expect of the next update as a whole. Oh, and just a heads up, I tried looking for the Vietnam map and I could not find it anywhere. Either it's not in the game yet, like available for custom battles or whatever, or it's under a different name and I just couldn't find it. And in the near future, I'll also maybe make a video of the bite-sized War Thunder. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. Have a great day, and until next time, get to the chopper! And peace out.